It's December 17th, 2021. On this day last year, I received a call that my father wasn't expected to live much longer, and that I was to get up to Pennsylvania so I could see him before he passed. My parents live about 3 hours away from me, so it was a Thursday, so I packed up a few things to stay overnight if needed to be, and I started a long drive by myself. 3 hours gives you a lot of time to think. And for me, the date being December 17th, the thing I couldn't stop thinking about was December 17th, 1994, where I found myself in a hospice room with the man that I loved. I had been told rather by the hospice nurses that it was probably not going to be much longer. So I called his youngest daughter, who was local, and her mother-in-law graciously drove her over. And the three of us spent several hours there with Jim in his room. He wasn't conscious per se, but I know he knew we were there. As the time went on and we laughed and told stories, I reminded Jim several times that everything was going to be okay, that his kids were going to be fine, his grandkids were going to be fine, and that I would never stop loving them and looking out for them, just being there for them. I mean, they were all adults, so they didn't really need me for anything, except maybe just to know that someone cared. They'd lost their mom 2 years earlier in a tragic accident, and now they were about to lose their dad to a very strange and very rare brain disease that came on extremely quickly. So as the time grew nearer and nearer for Jim to go home, I did the only thing I knew to do, which was pray. So we sat there. I sat on his bedside, and his daughter was at his feet, and we prayed. And one of the wonderful hospice nurses sat with us and joined us in prayer. And as difficult as it was, when it finally came, it was peaceful. And if you've never been with someone at the moment of their passing, it's the most surreal experience, because it is immediately apparent that they are no longer there. I remember looking up into the corner of the room and saying goodbye. I'll see you later. And I texted our friends in choir. We were supposed to be having a choir concert that night because it was Christmas. And we'd already set up an arrangement that one of the guys had a pager, and when it happened, I was to page him with 911, which I did. And so when the concert was over, a group of, 8 or 10 of them from the choir, dear friends, came, and we stood in a circle around the shell where Jim used to live, and we prayed. We thanked God for his life and for the privilege of knowing him and the privilege of loving him. He was a pretty cool guy. He was a retired Army colonel who flew Chinooks in Vietnam. He was a gifted athlete. Just a few months prior to that, in the end of July, he bicycled across the state of Iowa, if you can believe that. Bicycle, not motorcycle, bicycle. Rode a bicycle across the state of Iowa. Yeah, he was an athlete. We played racquetball a lot, rode bikes a lot. He used to play racquetball with our pastor, who was quite a bit younger than him, and I'm pretty sure he regularly cleaned Michael's clock. But we knew something was going wrong when he suddenly couldn't keep track of the ball anymore in the racquetball court. And we went to several doctors and trying to figure out what was going on. And it wasn't until Thanksgiving Day, well, early in the wee hours of the day after Thanksgiving, that we finally got a pretty definitive diagnosis. And we're told there was no treatment, no hope, and it could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. So I took a leave of absence, and some of his family members came in for a few days, a week maybe. I forget how long they stayed. But they had to get back to their lives, and it was Christmas after all, Christmas season. So his eldest daughter and I took care of him. And when we transferred him to the hospice center, his eldest daughter went back to her family because she had 2 young kids. And it was just me and him most days. People from the church would come, but anyways, it was that December 17th, 1994 was a day not to be forgotten. And so December 17th, 2021, here I was, driving up to say goodbye to someone else. But I left out something from the story last night. The story about how Christ came at Christmas to save us. I talked about him taking the punishment for us. But the piece I left out was really the most important. And that's that he didn't stay dead. He rose from the dead to prove that he had conquered even death. So I know I'm going to see Jim again. And I know I'm going to see my dad again. My dad did end up passing 2 days later. I was blessed with the opportunity to spend time with him, sang lots and lots of hymns. Every hymn I could remember from my childhood and adulthood, and classical pieces that he enjoyed that I used to sing. And again, he wasn't responsive, but I know he knew I was there. And it was a blessing to be able to be with him. But it makes it hard at Christmas time when there's been loss. And I have 2 very dear friends who are grieving right now for the loss of family members. One lost her husband very unexpectedly just a few months ago. The other one has lost 2 brothers in the last 2 years. And a dear friend she lost a dear friend just last week. So grief is still really hard. And it's really hard when everybody around you is cheerful and happy and celebrating and singing and all the, most wonderful time of the year thing. But I'm so thankful that we do grieve, but we don't grieve the way that those with no hope grieve. Because we know this isn't the end. This isn't it. Everybody dies. 100% possibility that you're going to die someday. And I'm going to die. It's part of life. But because Christ is my Savior, and because Christ was my Father's Savior, and Jim's Lord, I know I'll see them again. And that gives me comfort. If you've lost a loved one during the season, I'm so sorry, and I do feel your pain. And when I go through these periods where I'm just remembering, I do pray for those who are in a similar situation, and I do know how it feels. But I hope you have hope like I do. And I pray that you will find peace, the peace that passes understanding, even in the midst of difficult and trying times. For the real message of Christmas is Emmanuel, God with us. He's with us now. He was with us then. He'll be with us always. And that's the way that we can have, despite everything, we can still have a Merry Christmas. I hope you have a good night and a great day.